Hello everyone, this is Logan59XP here on May 6th of 2022, and today I'm here to give my thoughts on the just released newest Marvel film, that of course being Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I just got back from seeing it, and we're here to talk about it. So, this is a movie that has been highly anticipated. Not as much as a No Way Home or an Endgame, but definitely one of the more anticipated movies. Like, people have been looking forward to this more than they did Black Widow or Shang-Chi or Eternals. This is a big deal. It's not as big of a deal as No Way Home. It's not as big of a deal as Infinity War or an Endgame, but this is definitely one of the bigger movies. And coming hot off, well, maybe not hot off the heels. It's been like 4 months at this point, but being the next MCU movie after No Way Home definitely helps with that. And in the trailers, they definitely lean into the fact that this is coming after No Way Home with certain teases for certain characters, all of which we will, of course, be talking about in a sec. So, first things first before we get started, I want to talk about what I was spoiled on. Now, obviously, spoiler discussion. All of these Marvel discussions are spoiler discussions, so if you have not seen the movie yet, go watch it. It's really, really good. Maybe not as good as we'll get to that later. Point is, it's good. It's good. You should absolutely go see it. It's really good. It does a lot of things different than usual Marvel films. It's absolutely something you gotta go see. But I'm sure you're all gonna be seeing it anyway, because who isn't? But so let's talk about what I was spoiled on beforehand. Now, of course, like every big Marvel movie these days, spoilers are always going to be abound. There's been a crap ton of leaks and tons of just stuff in general. So, what did I know going in? Well, I can safely say, or thankfully say, I did not see anything that I would consider a big deal. I knew really only one thing, and I'll explain what that is in a second here, but basically, okay, so obviously, one of the big things people were looking forward to in this movie was all the cameos, and again, we'll get to that in a second. I was spoiled on what one of the cameos was, but it was a cameo that I didn't know about, as in, it was a character I barely even knew existed, and because of that, when I saw it, I didn't really think it was that big a deal. So there is that. So I got spoiled on one of the cameos, and this is not really a spoiler, but I guess it kind of is. Whatever, I'm just going to say it, because again, if you're listening to this, you've already seen the movie. I was spoiled. Okay, I'll just say it. I'll just say everything. Okay, so I was spoiled on Black Bolt. Again, we'll get to that in a second when we get to it. I was spoiled on Black Bolt, and I was spoiled on, well, again, if you count this next thing as a spoiler, it's debatable, that there weren't going to be that many cameos. I was spoiled on the fact that there were not going to be that many cameos. A lot of people are going into the movie thinking it was going to be this giant cameo fest, and it really isn't. It's very much Doctor Strange and Wanda. That is the focus of the movie. They got the cameos there, but they play a minor role, all things considered. But we'll talk about the cameos when we get to it. So, let's talk about the movie. Now, I remember John Campea, when he saw the first, I think, 25 minutes at, like, CinemaCon, like a week ago, he was talking about how it felt like the movie was just, like, going. Like, it just went. Like, for 45 minutes, it was non-stop, just going. It was really, really good. And, yeah, the movie literally starts. The movie literally starts with an action scene. It doesn't last very long, but it literally, like, after the Marvel logo, boom, action scene of Doctor Strange and America Chavez and, like, some alternate dimension fighting some creature or whatever. So immediately, you know what you're here for. And also, immediately, one of the big selling points of this movie, and another big reason why people were excited for it, Sam Raimi. I can assure you, as someone that has seen the movie, they do not hold back on the Sam Raimi. You can tell by the way that it is shot, the composition, like, I've never seen a Sam Raimi movie. I've never seen Evil Dead, I've never seen the Spider-Man trilogy, I've never seen any of his other stuff. But I do know what he's known for, and it is beyond obvious that Sam went ham. Get it? Sam went ham. Sam went ham on all the stuff he's known for. Like, they do not hold back. There's a lot of, I think, like, was this in the Moon Knight review? Review. It's not really a review, but whatever. I mean, these are kind of reviews, but I don't call them that. I just call them my thoughts, but whatever. Like in the Moon Knight video, I think I talked about how I'm not one of those people that like really cares all that much about like cinema. Actually, this might have been the Morbius review. It's not a review. It's not a review. They're kind of reviews. I do not count them as reviews myself. I just consider them discussions or whatever. Or my thoughts, because that's the title of the thing. But I'm not someone that really cares about like cinematography and shot composition. I'm not someone that really cares too much about that. Like, I know a lot of people complain that the Marvel movies by and large have very bland cinematography with the same, shot reverse shot or whatever the heck. Again, I don't know I am not by any means an expert on any of that. But I've heard all of the usual complaints with the cinematography, and I can assure you none of those complaints are going to be in this movie. The cinematography, the angles, the shots, just like the way that it's all very different from your standard Marvel fare. It is very Sam Raimi. If you were going into this movie hoping for an MCU movie that feels like a Sam Raimi movie, I mean, it's still a Marvel movie, but it's very much a Sam Raimi movie. I know there was a lot of people that were paranoid that they're going to have Sam Raimi there, but he's not going to really be able to do anything. He's going to be pigeonholed into the Marvel formula. He's not going to be able to have any fun. Trust me, he gets to do plenty with what he's given. Again, it's not just one scene or two scenes. It's like half of the movie, at least, is just all the Sam Raimi with the shots and the angles and the compositions and the dissolves and like, oh man, like it is very different from the usual Marvel fare. And even though I'm not someone that really cares about the bland cinematography or whatever that most of them have, this was really, really cool. It was very different. It was really awesome. We even got some stuff that this isn't necessarily a part of the cinematography or whatever, but I'll bring it up just real quick. That fight with the two Doctor Stranges, and it's like a music battle. That is something that we would not get otherwise. Like, that feels like something Sam Raimi came up with. I don't think Kevin Feige or any of the writers came up with that. Now, again, no expert on Sam Raimi here. I haven't seen a single one of his stuff, but that just feels like the kind of thing we wouldn't get if this was like under Scott Derrickson, which of course was supposed to be the original director who did the first one. I feel like if it was Scott Derrickson, we would not have gotten that music note battle. That music note battle was really cool and unique. That is something that's just really creative right there. So yeah. So it's really interesting that the first thing I really want to talk about is just like the Sam Raimi, because it really is the most notable thing about the movie. I mean, the entire movie is pretty good, but that Sam Raimi elevates it a ton in my eyes. Again, I've not seen a single Sam Raimi movie. I've seen clips. I've never seen any of the movies, but I can tell that this is all the Sam Raimi. So that's my biggest praise I can give for the movie right there, is that it is Sam Raimi to hell. Let's talk about the second biggest thing about the movie, and that, of course, is all the multiverse stuff. Now, the multiverse is in some ways not as grand as you might expect from a title, Multiverse of Madness, but the multiverse is very much a part of the movie. Although a lot of the like kind of multiverse craziness is kind of really only reserved for a couple of scenes. Like, we get that one scene of America Chavez and Doctor Strange just like flying through like 50 universes in like 50 seconds or whatever. Like, every second there's a new universe. There's one where they're in a cartoon world. There's one where they're paint. Like, that was pretty cool. Also, like, the architecture and just stuff in general of like the different universes is really interesting. Also, I didn't know this. I wouldn't know this myself, but of course, in I believe the first universe they really go to, Doctor Strange and America Chavez, like the one that they end up in after getting flown a billion universes. That one we get to see the obligatory Bruce Campbell cameo. And I say that because, again, even though I've never seen any of his movies, I know that Bruce Campbell was always a staple. Of course, Bruce Campbell, most famous for being Ash Williams, and of course Evil Dead, of course created by Sam Raimi, and he's made a cameo in basically every movie he's ever made, including the Toby trilogy. So he's appeared in every single movie. So everyone expected the obligatory Bruce Campbell cameo, and we got it, and it was neat. I don't know if it's gonna rank up there with what we've seen in the Spider-Man trilogy, but I thought it was neat. It definitely calls attention to itself. Like it's a scene that like you cannot miss. In fact, spoiler alert, the very end of the movie involves him technically. So yeah, they definitely do not hide it. It's very much a pay attention, figure out who this is. Yeah, he's like a pizza ball, because apparently in this alternate universe, like America Chavez got like pizza balls, and she makes a joke about how actually food is free in every universe except for yours for some reason. And then we get like Bruce Campbell's like cameo or whatever. He's like, hey, you gotta pay for that or something. I don't know. So, and then Doctor Strange messes with him and squirts mustard at his eyes, and then he makes it so he keeps hitting himself for 3 weeks or whatever, and then so. But yeah, the multiverse stuff is all really cool, as you'd expect by being the multiverse. I think actually in that big, like, going through all the different universes thing the first time around, I think actually the quantum realm was in one of them. I could, or at least I think it was, even though the quantum realm is not a multiverse, technically speaking. Or is it? Isn't it just like a different thing? That's a topic for another day. But yeah, the multiverse stuff, all that stuff was all really cool. The Sam Raimi stuff, I've already gushed about that plenty. So I guess let's talk about the actual story of the movie. So the story of the movie is basically what everyone expected, which was Doctor Strange and America Chavez have to stop Wanda. Newsflash. That's the plot of the movie. And it's pretty good. There's definitely a lot of focus on Wanda. Like, Wanda is arguably might arguably gets just as much, if not more, screen time than Strange, which I'm sure some people have a problem with. I didn't really mind it, although it does make the movie feel like it's more of a Wanda movie than a Doctor Strange movie at points, but it still feels like the focus is on Doctor Strange most of the time. Like, it feels like they get about equal screen time, but I can see why it would appear to be that she might get more. Oh yeah, I guess let's talk, so yeah, the plot, I don't have much to say about the plot. Again, it's Doctor Strange must stop Wanda. And the journey to that, through all that, is pretty good. We go through all the multiverses and everything, and that's all really cool. We got a lot of cool action scenes that definitely are, again, a step above the usual Marvel fare. They're definitely more Marvel than like the other stuff in the movie. They're like a lot of the stuff in the movie is very blatantly Sam Raimi. The action scenes definitely do have a Sam Raimi edge to them. You can tell they mess with the camera angles and stuff like that in those. But that's definitely the most Marvel part of the entire movie. It's just like the action sequences, and they're good. They're good action sequences, but they're definitely more Marvel than Sam Raimi. But there is some Sam Raimi stuff in there. At least I think it does. Again, non-expert, but it feels like it's different, and you can tell it's not the usual, for the most part, stuff we tend to get in most of the movies. I guess let's talk about America Chavez real quick. She's actually basically, you know how I was just saying that Strange and Wanda might actually have more screen time, like maybe just like by a hair. America Chavez, we knew was going to be like a supporting character, and she is a supporting character, but she's got just as much like okay, if there was another main character in the movie that wasn't Wanda and wasn't Strange, it would probably be Chavez. And she's not a main character, but she gets, again, just as much screen time as the other two, basically. We get a little of her backstory. I don't know much about her, because again, like some of the newer characters like Kamala, of course we'll be getting Kamala in the Ms. Marvel series in June, but like a lot of those newer like teenage characters from like the last 10 years or so, I don't know anything about them other than that they exist in like one or two traits. For example, I knew about America Chavez having two moms. They show that for like a brief scene Like the first time she uses her multiverse ability, which she can't control. It's funny because before seeing the movie, I was like, okay, so I heard people talking about how she's gonna be the one that controls like the portals to the multiverse, and I was like, how is that gonna work? Like, how does she control that? The answer, she can't control that. Now, at the very end of the movie, she gains the ability to do so, but for most of the movie, she cannot control her ability to control the multiverse. And she's actually a big part. Okay, she's actually a big part of the plot, because the main goal that Wanda wants in this movie, of course, is to be able to see her kids, Tommy and Billy. She wants to be with them because, of course, they were, she lost them in WandaVision. This show, shocker for a movie that, did I say this show? This movie, shocker, has a lot of references to WandaVision. It's by no means the most omnipresent thing, but there's quite a few references to WandaVision, which isn't surprising because, I mean, the end of WandaVision literally connects to this movie with the Darkhold and everything. But like, for example, you hear a little bit of I don't know if it's the first or the second theme song, but you hear one of the theme songs from WandaVision for a brief second, like when Wanda is first introduced, when we're looking at like the alternate universe version of her, that's in the other universe that our Wanda goes and controls the other one or whatever, or later, you hear the WandaVision theme for a little bit in there. And of course they talk about Westview a little bit, that whole scene from the trailer of "I'm not here to talk about Westview." They mention that. But so obviously, up until this point, up until this point, the Disney Plus shows have basically been their own thing. Yes, WandaVision was a big deal. Yes, Loki was a big deal. But for the most part, the Disney Plus shows have been like their own thing. Like, it's a good idea to watch them, but you don't have to watch them. Doctor Strange is the first movie that legit requires you to watch one of the Disney Plus shows, which is fine for me because, of course, I have Disney Plus. In fact, I've talked about every single Disney Plus show so far. In fact, I just talked about Moon Knight a couple days ago when the finale came out. I didn't talk about What If when it came out, though, because I did talk about it in my Hawkeye video, though, but outside of What If is kind of its own thing, so it's not that big a deal. But, the Disney Plus shows, though, up until this point, haven't really, like, Loki, everyone's like, oh, No Way Home happened because of Loki and Sylvie and whatever. But it's not, like, super direct. It's something you can infer. I'm not even 100% sure if that's really what happened in the end anyway, because the Loki thing was timelines, whereas No Way Home in this movie is the multiverse. And timelines in the multiverse are not strictly the same thing, but anyways, again, we're getting off track here. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you've seen WandaVision, it helps with the movie because they make a couple of several WandaVision like callbacks, and it's like directly connected. Like, not super, like it's not connected so much that you had to see it. Like, if you didn't see WandaVision, you'll still be able to enjoy the movie plenty. But it's definitely nice if you've seen WandaVision, because again, they make a couple references and some callbacks that are nice, but you don't have to see it. But yeah, so back to America Chavez. So I know that there was probably a good amount of people out there that were skeptical of America Chavez because, again, she's one of those newer like characters that not that many people like. I actually thought, and I haven't seen her in like anything else, by the way. I haven't seen her in any other thing, so I don't know anything about her outside of the surface level stuff, like that, like some of her powers and the fact that she has two moms and that she's a lesbian or whatever. Like, I know a couple of things about her, but I don't know anything else. So this, by all practical purposes, was my introduction to her as a character, and I thought she was fine. I actually thought she was fine. Like, I didn't have any problems with her. In fact, she was kind of likable. So that's a plus. I'm sure a lot of people were probably worried that she would be like this annoying person, but she wasn't, like, at all. She was totally fine. So that's awesome. And obviously we're going to see her again in the future. Maybe she'll pop up in Ms. Marvel. Who knows? But, actually, do we even know if she's going to be... is that confirmed right now? I don't know. That's just me speculating. But But yeah, America Chavez, she plays a crucial role in the movie as being the person that controls like the multiverse teleporting, and she's fine. I got nothing wrong with her, so that's cool. I don't know what the general consensus on her character is in this movie or not, but I'm imagining it's probably going to be. I don't think it's actually going to be that divisive. I think most people are going to either. I think most people are going to be fine with her, honestly, because there's nothing she does in the movie that would cause people to not like her. I don't know. So point is America Chavez, she's fine. So that's cool. I thought she was done just fine. So. Okay, so let's talk about some of the stuff that I'm actually a little skeptical on. So, not skeptical on, but rather some lingering questions that I didn't feel like I got a definitive answer to. So, remember when the first trailer came out? The one that was tagged at the end of No Way Home. And we saw at the very end, the things just got out of hand, which, by the way, isn't even in the final movie, I think, if I remember. The things just got out of hand, and everyone was like, look, it's the what-if strange, it's the what-if strange. And having seen the movie now, maybe I just missed something. Maybe there was a line of dialogue that referenced something from What If. Because there was a segment where the two strangers were talking about their own universes, I think. So there might have been a reference to like the events of that What If episode. But as far as I could tell, I don't actually think this is the What If Strange. I think it's a completely different Strange. It just happens to be similar. I don't think it's the same exact one. Which, by contrast, going back to we haven't talked about the cameos yet, actually, but I guess we can transition to the cameos. So, like for example, Charles Xavier, which we all knew was going to happen because of the trailer. Charles Xavier, for example, he is not the Fox version of the character. He is actually, I don't think he's literally the animated series version, but they definitely imply he's the animated series version because he has like the golden like flying yellow wheelchair, and then to like really hammer it home, they play the do 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 do. They play the animated series theme as he's like coming in the frame, and he says the iconic line from the trailer, "We should tell him the truth," and all that stuff. So yeah. He's not the same version of the character. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure that... So, yeah, Charles Xavier is not the same version. I think that's pretty obvious. And that other Strange is not the What If Strange. I think it's a different Strange entirely, actually. Alrighty, then. Let's go ahead and properly talk about the cameos. So, I mentioned earlier how one thing I was quote-unquote spoiled on was the fact that for all the talk of cameos, who could show up in this movie, really only a couple people were there. And by a couple people, I mean like 3 that actually matter. There was technically 4, but really 3, and even then, really only 2. One of which we knew from the trailer. So let's go ahead and go over them. So of course, the Illuminati was something that was focused on in one of the trailers. People were making all kinds of speculations about who was going to be on and who the cameos were going to be. So let's talk about the cameos. So I already talked about what is... Actually, no, it's not the biggest one, but it's the second biggest one. That, of course, is Patrick Stewart reprising his role as Charles Xavier. But as I said before, he is not the Fox version of the character. He is actually the... again, I don't think he's literally the animated series version, but he's at least inspired by the animated series version, because, again, they play the do-do-do-do-do, and they have, like, the golden flying chair or whatever. So they have that. And we get to see him use his, like, mind ability or whatever, so that was cool with the little waveforms and stuff. We get to see Monica Rambeau. Is it Monica Rambeau, or is it, like, her mom? I don't know. I'm not very well versed on, like, Captain Marvel lore, because it's Captain Marvel. It's not exactly something I think about. But I'm pretty sure it was either Monica Rambeau or her mom or something. I don't remember entirely. No, Maria, I think. Is it Maria? I think it was Maria Rambeau, I think is what that was. Correct me if you want. I don't remember if it was Monica or Maria. It was one of the two. So we had her. Then we had a character that I said at the beginning I was spoiled on, but I didn't actually mind it because it's a character I don't really know anything about, so it's hard for me to really care. I mean this in a good way. And it's a really weird choice on Feige's part. I don't know why he did this, but Black Bolt, a character I know exists, but I know nothing about other than that they are an Inhuman. And they mentioned the fact that he's an Inhuman in the movie, by the way. And apparently, according to my friend, that is actually it's probably not the same version, but it's the same actor that played that Black Bolt in the infamous Inhuman series that everyone tries as best as they possibly can to forget, and most people have already forgotten has existed for years. I've never seen it and I never will, because why would I? But yeah, so technically speaking, they brought someone back from that Inhuman show, even though it's not the same version of the character probably. So yeah, that was the thing I was spoiled. That was the one thing in the movie I was really spoiled on, because every time a big Marvel movie comes out, and like your recommendation feed on YouTube gets flooded, and I mean flooded with it gets absolutely flooded with like those like opening day like phone cam videos of like spoilers. I saw a clip about Black Bolt that popped up in my feed like a couple days ago. So that's how I knew about Black Bolt. I didn't get anything else spoiled. Like for example, our last cameo we'll be talking about in a second. I did not get that spoiled, which is nice. Even though a lot of people were speculating it anyway. But again, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, so Black Bolt, that's a thing that happened. I don't know why Feige is trying to work with the Inhumans show, but at the same time, we gotta move past it eventually, right? We can't let that show hold back the Inhumans existing at all, even though Ms. Marvel, Kamala, probably the most famous of the Inhumans that normies would know about, she's not an Inhuman in her show. This is a whole other conversation we'll probably get to when we talk about the Ms. Marvel show when it comes out. But how Kamala in the MCU is like a genie and not really an Inhuman or whatever. Like she's not an Inhuman in the MCU, or maybe she'll become one later somehow. I don't know. Whole other topic. And I don't know enough to really even talk about it anyway. But point is Black Bolt. Okay, so we got Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart. We got Black Bolt, which is the same actor from the show. We got, I'm pretty sure, Maria Rambeau, who's this universe's Captain Marvel. And then, what is definitely the big one, something people have been asking for literally like 5 years now, probably. We finally got what people asked for, kinda. We'll get to that in a second. John Krasinski. I don't actually know that definitively, but I can safely say without having to look it up that it's definitely him. Because I don't know anything about him other than like some random artwork here and there. So I can safely say without having to look anything up, because I don't actually know this definitively, that's John Krasinski. But yes, John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. We got it for like 30 seconds. Cool. But the reason why it's like a bittersweet thing is it's like, yay, we got John Krasinski for like 30 seconds before they kill him off, as well as Charles Xavier. They kill all of them, by the way. All of them die. Maria dies, Black Bolt dies, Charles dies, and Mr. Fantastic dies. Reed Richards dies. All of the Illuminati die, except for Mordo. I think Mordo I think is still alive. I think he's still, but all of like the cameo appearances dead, which I'm willing to bet is probably going to be the most controversial thing about the movie. If there's anything I think people are going to complain about in this movie, I think the big one is going to be, why did they bring in John Krasinski just to kill him? That's probably going to be like one of the big ones. That's just my guess. We'll see. But I'm willing to bet that's going to be like one of the big ones, is why bring in Charles Xavier and especially John Krasinski if you're just going to kill him? Now, they are not the main MCU versions. They're from universe, I believe, 837 is what that universe was, and not the main 616 versions. So, technically speaking, it's not a big deal, because we can still get John Krasinski as the proper 616 version at some point. So I don't think it's a big deal, but they did bring him in just to kill him. I'm just saying. I would say the same for Charles Xavier, but let's be real here. For as iconic, as utterly iconic as Patrick Stewart's role as Charles Xavier is, it's up there with Hugh Jackman in terms of how iconic it is. Let's be real here. I actually, hold on. I think Patrick Stewart is up there. Like, he is up there. You wouldn't really think it by looking at him. He doesn't look too bad. But I believe, I'll look it up right now, actually. But he is up there. He's 81 at the time of this video. He's 81 years old. He's up there. He's still acting. I know, he's doing Picard. I know, he's doing Picard. He's been in other things. He's in this. So he's still acting. He's still got it. But I don't think don't expect to see Patrick Stewart as the like the proper MCU Charles Xavier anytime soon, because that's not gonna happen. I think that this was a one-off, just so we could get him in real quick, so we can make people cheer in the theater, and that was it. John Krasinski is a different story because he's obviously way younger than. I actually don't know how old John Krasinski is, but if we're gonna get either of those two actors in the MCU permanently, it's gonna be John Krasinski, especially when John Krasinski is like the fan favorite that everyone's talked about for like 5 years. But maybe for all we know, this was just a one-off, and that the actual real Mr. Fantastic will be someone else. But yeah, Patrick Stewart was just a one-off to make to get people to cheer in the theater over seeing him. And then, which I'm not complaining about at all, I'm just saying that's what it is. John Krasinski, that might still happen, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, the cameos, they're not that big. They're in the movie and they're cool. And the theater, which was, again, this is day one, so obviously all the people that give a darn about the movie the most are gonna see it day one. The theater was packed. There wasn't any big No Way Home level cheering when any of them showed up, but people were definitely happy to see John Krasinski and Charles Xavier and Patrick Stewart. They were definitely happy. It wasn't No Way Home levels of woo, yeah, there's Andrew, woo, Toby. It was not that. But people were definitely happy. I could tell people people made noise, not tons of noise, but they made noise when they showed up. And so yeah, so for everyone, so I know because the cameos, I imagine for a lot of people are one of the big selling points of the movie. So if you come into the movie for the cameos, you're probably gonna be disappointed, especially when they kill all of them. But the cameos are cool. But they are by no means the main focus of the story. It's just kind of a small thing that's there for a minute. And then they all die trying to defeat Wanda. Or the other Wanda that's being controlled by our Wanda, or whatever. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's basically all I really gotta say. So, I mean, the movie's really good. It's genuinely really good. It's Sam Raimi, as I've already talked about 1,000 times. They take full advantage of the thing. I know people were worried that Marvel Feige was gonna they weren't gonna let him really be able to go all out. They do. There is no mistaking it. They let Sam Raimi do what he does, and it's really cool to see. Again, the cameos will brief and maybe not entirely what people wanted. We're cool. It was cool to see John Krasinski. It was cool to see Charles Xavier. It was cool to hear that do. It was cool. That was cool. It was brief. It was short. And I wish they didn't die. I think it was kind of dumb to kill, especially John Krasinski. Okay, Patrick Stewart's one thing, because he's been playing Charles Xavier for 20 years at this point. Again, he's 80, so that's not a big deal. But killing John Krasinski, I think that's the thing that's gonna get people Again, I haven't seen the general reactions yet, but I'm willing to bet one of the complaints is definitely gonna be they killed John Krasinski. That's gonna be one of them, definitely. But yeah, the cameos, while brief, are cool, and they don't get in the way of the story. Because while there were a lot of people that were excited for the cameos, there was also a lot of people that were worried the cameos were gonna get in the way of the movie. That, like, it was gonna be just the cameo of the movie with, like, Doctor Strange and Wanda happening in a corner. It is not that. The cameos are brief. They're neat, but they're brief. The movie is very much Doctor Strange, Chavez, Wanda. That is the main conflict. That is the main story. That is what gets all the focus. And it's all really good. All the multiverse, like all the different dimensions and the architecture and all that stuff is good. Again, America Chavez was actually pretty good. I didn't have any problems with her. I know some people were worried about how they were going to portray her, whether or not she was going to be annoying or whatever, but she was actually totally fine. I thought she was totally fine. Oh yeah, Elizabeth Olsen as Wanda does a really good job. I know a lot of people praised her for her work in WandaVision, although I thought she was fine in WandaVision, which is ironic because it's literally called WandaVision. And yeah, I thought she didn't have any like super like notable moments, like not like and like for example, like, but you could tell Elizabeth Olsen was definitely pushing herself more than she normally does. It's not Oscar Isaac in Moon Knight season 5 levels, but you can tell that Elizabeth Olsen was doing more with the character than what she normally does, and that was cool. You know, Benedict Cumberbatch. He's obviously good. He didn't do anything super, you know, he just kind of does what he does as Doctor Strange, but you know, it's obviously always cool to see, because, you know, who doesn't like Doctor Strange? And, yeah, so, yeah, that's kind of about it. So, yeah, Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. I don't have a single real complaint with the movie. Actually, no, I have. Oh, hold on. Whoa, wait, we forgot one big thing to talk about. Oh yeah, by the way, I think I was talking earlier about the Sam Raimi. The music, which of course is by Danny Elfman, which of course is a regular collaborator with Raimi and worked on the Toby films, all that stuff. He does the music for this movie, and is the music in this as iconic as the Spider-Man trilogy? Of course not. But, again, from that first action scene in like the first 5 seconds, you can immediately tell even the music is a cut above normal. Because another thing that people like to accuse the MCU of is having very like generic music. With some exceptions here. Like, you know, the Ant-Man theme is really good. The MCU Spider-Man theme is good. Like, there's some good themes. Of course, the Avengers theme is iconic. You know, there's good themes in the MCU, absolutely. But the general, like, overall score tends to be kind of just there. This movie is definitely a cut above normal. Not a ton, but you can tell that Danny Elfman gets to flex his muscles at least a little bit. Not as much as Sam Raimi gets to flex his muscles, or like the movie is again super Sam Raimi, but the music is definitely like, you can tell that it's Danny Elfman and not just like Michael Giacchino or whatever his name is, or like any of the normal guys. Nothing against Michael Giacchino. I mean, he did the MCU Spider-Man theme out, and like also the original Doctor Strange theme, which is in this movie briefly. Like that. Oh, that's another thing I think is really good. The Doctor Strange theme from the first movie. That's also a pretty good songs. Yeah. So yeah, the Avengers theme, the Doctor Strange theme, the MCU Spider-Man theme, and the Ant-Man theme are all probably like the best MCU themes. I would say as of right now, but again, that's the key word there, as of right now. Of course, then again, the Avengers theme is made by Alan Silvestri, who is, of course, the legend known for Back to the Future, which is my favorite movie trilogy of all time. And obviously, the Back to the Future theme is super iconic, so of course the Avengers theme is going to be pretty good. But yeah, the music is not amazing, but it's definitely better than what you will see in like most of the other movies. Again, there are exceptions. Again, you know, Michael Giacchino generally does a good job with Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, and you know, with the Avengers theme and all that stuff, and the Ant-Man theme is good. Like, but like generally speaking, I will agree. Even though this doesn't detract from the movies for me, even I will agree that more often than not, again, there are exceptions, but more often than not, a lot of the MCU music does tend to just feel very, it's just there because it needs to be there. It's not really trying to be anything special. Again, there is exceptions. Again, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, the Avengers, but for the most part, the music is kind of just there. In this movie, you can tell that it's definitely at least a step above the rest. It's not amazing, but it's definitely a step above the rest, and you can hear in certain segments Danny Elfman flexing his muscles a little, and that's cool. So yeah, oh yeah, one last, actually we got two last things I want to talk about before we get to the end credits scene. The CGI in this movie, I think the CGI in this movie is the best CGI we have had in the entire MCU. Maybe I'm crazy, but I swear to God it looks better. There's no reason for it to be that way, because for the most part, the Marvel CG tends to look very similar because they use the same effects houses every time, and they have the MCU is talked about as being they're all very similar because or whatever it's basically a TV show as a movie, that whole thing, which is another thing people criticize the MCU for, is like being too similar. And again, there is some truth to that. Again, like they have the similar sounding scores and similar looking photography and whatever, which again, this movie does not have. This movie has really good cinematography, as I've talked about before. But the CG just looks better than all the other movies to me. Like, for example, that scene like near the beginning where they're fighting like that octopus creature. That octopus looks more detailed than like a lot of the other big like CG muck we've seen in the past. Not to discount it too much by calling it muck, but like it just looks a lot better to me. Like you can see there's a lot of detail in the lighting and just like the textures, like a lot like very deep. Like it's like obviously it's CG, but that octopus thing doesn't. It doesn't look like it's a CG creature. Like, it is a CG creature, and you can tell it's a CG creature, but it wouldn't take that much of a stretch of the imagination to assume that could possibly be, like, a real thing in the environment, if that makes any logical sense whatsoever. Like, it doesn't look super fake, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't look fake, it looks like it could actually exist. And that's something I know in a lot of the time, Marvel CG, even if it tends to be, like, pretty competent, it doesn't look like it could really exist. It still looks like it's fake. Like it still looks like it's a computer generated image, which is what it is. But that octopus creature, for example, and there's a lot of other CG in the film, obviously. I mean, it's the multiverse of madness, for crying out loud. It's gonna be a crap ton of CG. But just the CG in general, that octopus is the big example I want to bring up because it's the one where I noticed the most detail. But just in general, I feel like the CG in this movie is also a cut above the normal. Like like there's not any spots in the movie where it feels like the CG budget was cut or they didn't have enough time. Like, for example, in No Way Home. Like, No Way Home in the final fight scene, like, I know a lot of people are talking about, like, that scene of, like, Toby, like, getting, swallowed up by Sandman looks kind of, like, looks fake and looks worse than what than what Spider-Man 3 did, like, 15 years earlier or whatever. But that's not, and I know that was improved in, like, the Blu-ray, in, like, the later releases or like, the later screenings or whatever on the Blu-ray, But the CG in this movie does not look rushed at all, is what I'm trying to get at. It looks really good. There's not any spots that look like it was rushed or anything like that. It's all very, very good. So, yeah. I think okay. Let's get to the last bit. Let's talk about the post-credits scene. There's technically two, but there's really only one. Let's get the... Actually, no, we'll do the first one. We'll go in order. So, the first post-credits scene is Doctor Strange just walking around outside of the Sanctum Sanctorum, and then he stumbles into someone that my friend told me who she was, but I don't actually remember her name. It's a character I've never heard of before. But he stumbles into some character that's like, hey, Stephen Strange, you need to come with me because you messed things up and you need to fix them or something like that. I might be getting that wrong, but she's like, you need to come with me. And then she opens up this portal that takes us that looks like the Dormammu dimension from the first movie. So I'm guessing this character has some relation to Dormammu. Again, I don't know who this character is. I apologize. She is purple and she is related to Dormammu somehow because the portal she opens with her sword or daggers or whatever takes you to the Dormammu dimension. Dormammu, I've come to bargain. But so there's some connection there, and then they hop into the portal, and that's it. So that's the big like end stinger, and right after that they have the Doctor Strange will return, and then the final credit scene is the first joke credit scene we've had in a while. I think the last joke / meme like credit scene we had in an MCU movie was Ant-Man and the Wasp. I could be wrong about that, but I think Ant-Man and the Wasp was the last MCU movie we had that had a joke post-credit scene in it. that clearly was not there to set up literally anything at all. I mean, you could argue that the Tom Hardy post-credit scene in No Way Home is a joke scene, but it's not really because they have that bit at the end where they leave a bit of the symbiote behind. So it's there to set up something. Therefore, it's not just a joke meme scene. Even though it's like that for most of it, it's not literally one because it does serve a purpose. The Ant-Man, the one where it's after the snap, right? And like they have the ant playing on the Guitar Hero drums or whatever. Or no, not even Guitar Hero drums. I think just like regular drums. That's a meme / joke post-credit scene that doesn't mean anything. It's just there for a joke. This is the first one since Ant-Man and the Wasp to have a joke post-credit scene in it, and it's. Again, I hinted at this earlier, but it has Bruce Campbell's character coming in and saying, apparently, hey, he's not punching himself anymore. The spell is gone, and then he says like, it's all over, which I'm guessing is a reference to the classic Ferris Bueller. It's over. Go home, which of course was referenced in Deadpool, or whatever. That's just me guessing. That might not be a Ferris Bueller reference, but that's what I'm guessing it is. Because I can't think of any other movie at least that I can think of. Then again, I haven't seen that many movies, if I'm being completely honest here. But I don't know of any other movie that has a, hey, it's all over, go home type thing like Ferris Bueller did, which is why Deadpool parodied it. But yeah, so we got that thing with the Dormammu dimension or whatever, and that new character that I don't know anything about. So there's that. Doctor Strange 3 or whatever is going to happen with that. When that comes out in 5 years. That's basically how long it took for this one to come out. And then we get that little joke post-credit scene with Bruce Campbell. So cool, I guess. And that is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It's pretty good. It's very Sam Raimi, the cinematography and the camera and all that stuff. All that stuff is really cool. It's very different from the usual MCU fare. Strange is cool, obviously. Wanda is obviously cool. America Chavez is America Chavez. She's totally fine. Nothing wrong with her. We get to see those cameos. We get to see the other multiverses. We get to see some neat fights that again feel like they're a cut above the usual. And yeah, it's just generally it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And if somehow you've listened to all of this and you still haven't seen it yet, go watch it. In fact, go watch it in 3D. I know that 3D has kind of fallen off the face of the planet, but I did not see this movie in 3D, but I've heard from a lot of people you should go watch it in 3D. So maybe for the first time in years, go actually and watch a movie in 3D, because I think it'll probably be a movie worth seeing in 3D. But we'll see. But that's just what I'm saying. That's just what I've heard though. So yeah, what do you guys all think of Doctor Strange? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Did you not like that they killed off all the cameos? What did you think about what do you what did you think about the movie in general, good or bad? I'm very interested to hear what all of you think. And I guess with that being said, this is Logan 59XP, and I'll see you guys next time.